Welcome to today's learning module with Sharky's machine. Today we're going to talk about fastener torque. Now obviously I'm going to use lug nuts as my example. The two terms that I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with are initial torque and final torque. Now initial torque has most likely been achieved, right? Either using an air impact, an electric impact. You might even use a torque stick when you do that. I don't have any issues with that, as long as we realize that that's just our initial torque. The only way to achieve an accurate torque is to use a torque wrench. The torque wrench must be used properly. Now, I have pre-staged this a little bit, and what I want you to notice when I put a torque wrench on this lug nut is that it rotates before it ever clicks, and then of course I don't go any further than that. I know that that lug nut, as long as my torque wrench is calibrated properly, I know that that lug nut is properly torqued. But the key is that the lug nut rotated and was rotating when the torque wrench clicked. Right? Now if I go to this other lug nut, right, what you're going to notice, right, no rotation, right? So I really don't know if that lug nut is at proper torque or possibly beyond. The only way I would know would be to loosen it and to start from scratch and get it to click while the lug nut was actually rotating, right? Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is the use of extensions. A lot of people will say that, hey, you cannot get an accurate torque when you're using an extension. And this is a reasonably length extension that you might find useful in the shop. And yes, there's going to be a little bit of flex in that extension, but we got to think about what's going on here. This torque wrench is not going to click until it sees the torque achieved here at the head of the torque wrench, right? That cannot happen until the same thing has happened on the other end, right? So the amount of flex that's going on in between really doesn't matter as far as that's concerned. Of course, you know, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to get it to happen, but this cannot click until the torque has been achieved at the other end, right? Now, let me use a little bit more extreme of an example, right? Right? Now, there'd be no reason that you need an extension quite this long, but I'm going to use it in my example here, right? If I go to this third lug nut now, right, we'll see, right? And I can feel the flex in that extension, but we'll see it rotates, and I'm still able to achieve proper torque on it, right? It doesn't matter how much flex is going on in the middle here, right? Now, some of you are still probably doubting me a little bit, and that's all right. If you go to the instructions for your torque wrench, now I'm going to use Snap-on as an example, right? But with your Snap-on torque wrench, there is an instruction sheet. And in that instruction sheet, if we take the time to look at that, it shows the use of all sorts of different adapters, right? And different angles and what their effect would be on the torque and how to calculate the proper torque using those different adapters. Well, one of the adapters that they're showing in the illustration is a straight adapter, right? As long as you're within so many degrees of 90 degrees straight up and down or straight from the fastener, right, proper torque is still achieved, right? So it's right there in the instructions. You can go to the website and things like that, and you can find that information if you've lost the actual printed copy of it. Thanks for joining me today, and join us again pretty soon for another episode of Sharky's Machine.